Tesla Energy is exploding in size, but Wall Street still doesn't get it. In Q2 2025, Tesla deployed 9.6 gigawatt hours of energy storage, its third highest ever. Total deployed is now almost 83 gigawatt hours. Does Wall Street realize what happens when we get the full output of Tesla's Lathrop, Shanghai, and Powerwall factories combined, and a new Texas Megapack factory is coming online soon? So here's the truth. A Megapack is just a Tesla without wheels. Add those up and Tesla's vehicle business has been quietly growing all along. Let's unpack the numbers and why this might be Tesla's most misunderstood growth engine. Cern Basher is a chartered financial analyst who's currently running his own investment advisory firm called BrilliantAdvice, providing wealth management services. Welcome, Cern.
Hi, Herbert. Yeah, it turns out that Tesla is an energy company.
Straight to the point. I love the way you've positioned things. Obviously, energy company. At some point, Tesla's energy company will be bigger than auto business. But you also did the opposite, which is you said, okay, if Wall Street thinks of Tesla as a car company, let me show you, because all a Megapack is really just a car without wheels. I love it. Let's get started with some of the new tables and charts you've put together here.
Sounds good. Yeah, so the first one shows the storage deployed by quarter. And if you start out there on the far left side, you've got Q4 of 2016 with barely any energy deployed, rolling out power walls, et cetera, back then. And so this energy business, has taken a little while to get off the ground. And you can see that over the last really 5 quarters, it's really found a new level, and it should continue to grow from here. Tesla, up until the end of the fourth quarter, had one Megapack factory in California that had capacity of 40 gigawatt hours a year, and then Powerwall capacity maybe of 10 to 15 gigawatt hours a year. And as of end of Q4, we've now got a factory in Shanghai that has a capacity of at least 40 gigawatt hours. I think that'll be more than that ultimately. And now they're working on a third factory just outside of Houston, Texas for another 40, probably 40 plus gigawatt hours. So their quarterly capacity is going to be materially higher in the coming years.
And it's just the beginning. So we just saw it this year, since Q2 of 2024 to now Q2 of 2025. Look at that. That's it. And imagine this is just one and a bit. Yeah.
And if you notice there that Q2 last year was kind of a breakout quarter. The quarter prior to that was 4 gigawatt hours. And that one was, about 9.4, I think. And so that was a massive increase quarter to quarter. And then the following quarter after that, it dipped back down again. So the important thing to keep in mind here is that this energy business is very lumpy. The accounting and recognition for recognizing revenue for the Megapack is a little odd, a little strange. It tends to lag, deployment to the customer site. And so just keep that in mind, that the energy business isn't as smooth as we would like it to be. I like looking at this chart. This shows the cumulative deployments. And so we're now up over 80 gigawatt hours of cumulative storage deployments. And if you take a look at the 40 gigawatt hour line, we crossed that in Q2 last year. So Tesla has basically doubled its total lifetime deployments in essentially a year.
Wow.
So this business is growing very rapidly, and it should continue to do so.
Nice chart.
So don't get too hung up on the quarter to quarter changes. It's this long-term trajectory that matters. And another way to look at it to smooth out some of the lumpiness is to look at trailing 12 months, right? Because if the quarter to quarter is a little lumpy, then just kind of look at 4 quarters and smooth those out and average them out over time. Again, this paints a much more steady growth picture. But even with this, there'll be some periods where it looks like the business isn't growing. And so the last 12 months growth at the end of Q2 is very similar to the prior 12 months ending Q1. But again, don't get too worried by that. This business is on a solid growth trajectory going forward. And then here is just, again, the growth rate on that trailing 12 months number. And so you can see it's fluctuated between 0 in Q2 of 2022. That's basically 0, no growth over a 12-month period. That can happen. And then as high as, just a couple quarters later, 180% year-over-year growth. And again, even when you smooth it over 12 months, you still get some of this lumpiness in the growth rate.
And that's because this is not a sale, this is deployment. And so you're beholden to the actual customer to actually, implement it. And it takes time, and some quarter, maybe there's no deployment.
Yeah, and maybe you've deployed it to the site, it's installed, but it's not hooked up to the grid yet. And so it's not working. So they can't recognize the revenue for whatever reason.
Right.
There's just some things like that with the accounting that make it very lumpy. Now, on this chart, I've tried to show that trailing 12 months trend versus where I think the current capacity is of the business. Right. And so that's the power wall of 10 to 15. That's Lathrop, that's China. So let's call it about 90 gigawatt hours. Maybe it's 95, maybe it's even closer to 100, but at least 90. And so the 12 months trailing number is a little bit less than 40. It's about 38 gigawatt hours. And so, they've got a lot of capacity to grow into. And this is before they start to produce Megapacks at their new factory in Houston, which again is not complete yet. But that capacity line, that red bar, will grow even higher.
Yeah. I mean, I think you and I both agree that the Lathrop, we know for sure, I think that capacity is at 40. China, you're just adding 40, but because that's what they said it was, but actually we have suspicions that it actually is so large that it's possible that their capacity could be double 40, could be around 80 itself. And then you've got the Powerwall, and they tell you got your 90, but then once you get the Texas one in as well. So we're just starting with terms of capacity, and we're just starting with the existing deployed numbers. Yeah,
that's right. And the Chinese factory, just by the size of it, it looks like it's much more than 40 gigawatt hours, but that remains to be seen.
Yeah.
So just being conservative on that previous chart, that 90 gigawatt hour capacity, I think, is pretty conservative. And then on this one, it's just looking at the trailing 12 months deployed versus if you just annualize each quarter. And you can see sometimes there's some quarterly breakouts. And so if you annualize that number in a given quarter, that's way above the green line, right? It just so happens in this quarter that the quarterly annualized and the 12 months trailing are about the same, but expect some occasional breakouts where in a given quarter, the reported amount is much higher than that trailing 12-month average. So it's just another way to look at this and some of the lumpiness of the business. And this is something that Tesla Energy posted themselves. And this is another nice way of looking at it. It's looking at it year by year and breaking out the 4 quarters in different colors. And you can see that for the first half of 2025, it's almost as much as the first 3 quarters of last year.
Yeah.
And it's way above the full year of 2023, right? So, by the time we get through Q4 2025, it should be way ahead of 2024. So that's another nice way of looking at the data. There's so many ways to sort of slice and dice it, but this is a nice way visually to look at it. James Stevenson has done this with the delivery numbers on the auto business, but Tesla has preempted him here and did their own chart. Yeah.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay, so now let's turn to vehicles. This shows the cumulative quarterly production of Tesla vehicles, and it's crossed over 8 million vehicles since inception, right? And so while some people get sort of hung up on Tesla's lower deliveries versus expectations, make no mistake, they're making incredible progress. And also make no mistake that all these vehicles, or a good portion of them, will be able to serve in a robotaxi fleet one day. So while they may make a little bit of money today, they may make a lot more money on this installed base of vehicles at some point in the future. Now, not all these vehicles. I think about 4 million of them maybe have hardware 4. So to the extent that the other 4 million is still in operation, there may be some upgrades and so on to make those robotaxi ready. But Tesla has a pretty sizable fleet that can be turned on at some point. And then the next chart shows the deliveries, cumulative quarterly deliveries, and we are just knocking on the door of 8 million. If we assume, let's say, that Tesla delivers, let's just pick a number, 400,000 vehicles this quarter, that's 4,444 a day. And that would mean if they delivered that many every day, the same amount, which they don't, you would see Tesla cross the 8 million barrier here by July 8th.
Oh.
Now, because they don't deliver an even number of vehicles every day, and because at the beginning of the quarter they prioritize exports, they put them on ships, I project that we'll see this number at the earliest maybe by July 15th, and at the latest by the end of the month.
But don't they announce production, or we've now produced this many cars?
And they did that prior to the end of the quarter. Yeah. They did that, and so it'll be interesting to see if they announce their 8 millionth delivery. Perhaps they won't. Yeah, but if they do, expect it towards the latter half of this month. This is one, Herbert, that you and I have talked about before, and it's kind of fun, and I've updated this again. I've got the flaming heads on Wall Street who think of Tesla as a car company, right? And so you look at the reported deliveries of Tesla, and again, I've used this 12-month moving average to smooth out some of the lumpiness. And you can see that Tesla was growing really nicely from 2020 through to the end of 2023. Right, pretty much, it's a nice trend upwards. And since then, we've kind of flatlined, and in fact, we've come down a little bit. So if you view Tesla as a car company only, you could be, quite concerned, as a lot of people in Wall Street have articulated, about Tesla's lack of growth. Now, this only tells part of the story. So we've just been talking about Tesla Energy earlier. So let's take a look at what Tesla Energy looks like if you treat them as vehicle equivalents. So on the next chart, Herbert, we've got this new vehicle. It's this big boxy vehicle. It doesn't have any wheels. Yeah. It's just designed to be parked.
Yeah.
Right? Let's call it a Megapack. It's kind of a sexy name for a vehicle that doesn't go anywhere, right? A Megapack. Just sits there. Yeah. Right? These Megapacks have a lot of batteries, no wheels. And if we converted them into EV equivalents, right? Let's say we use 75 kilowatt hour equivalents. And so we can derive how many vehicles these represent. Mm-hmm. And so all the way back in 2021, they produced 27,000 of the vehicle equivalents. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right? And now that has grown up to over 500,000 vehicle equivalents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? So the batteries in these is, again, over 500,000 vehicles that would have 75 kilowatt hour battery packs in them. Right. So think about it as kind of like a Model Y. Some Model Ys have more, some Model Ys have less, depending on the range. But another 500,000 Model Ys, essentially.
Okay, I'm getting confused here a little bit. I get the EV equivalents. I love that. But it says trailing 12 months. Are you saying that, 506,000 EV equivalents, cars, could have been made out of these batteries over 1 year, 12 months?
That's correct.
This is not cumulative, right? This is...
No, it's a rolling 12-month period.
That's shocking, because now, from Q2 2024 to Q2 2025, that's 500,000 EV equivalents. Well, that is like, whoa, aren't we like concerned? Why is the car, why are we only selling, are we going to sell 1.8 million this year or not? Well, that's 500,000. That's like a third more. Is that right?
Yeah. And so the next chart, Herbert, combines the two charts.
Okay.
Right. So this is the reported deliveries plus the EV equivalents from the energy business. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the shading isn't perfect here. I'm sorry. There's a kind of a blended shading. I probably could have done it, better than this. But cumulatively, over the last 12 months, if you look at the far right side, 2.185 million vehicle equivalents have been produced. Mm-hmm. Right. Again, 1.679 million vehicles and another 506,000 energy vehicle equivalents. And by the way, this has grown by 8% year over year. Okay, so if you look at 2Q this year versus 2Q of last year, it's up 8%. And I believe the 2-year growth rate is something like 21%. So if you look at Q2 of 2023 to Q2 of 2025, where we are now is 21% higher than where we were 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So to say that Tesla has had no growth, if you exclude energy, okay, that's true. But if you include the contribution of energy, right? Looking at total, energy equivalent vehicles, Tesla has grown over the last 12 months by 8% and over the last 2 years by 21%. Yeah. Right. And it's been convenient for the media, for Wall Street analysts to ignore energy. But it's silly because it's part of the company and it's contributing more and more and more over time.
I mean, every electric vehicle has a massive battery in it. So you've taken these batteries and sold it. You still sold the batteries. And so what's the component that is battery versus not battery of a car? Almost all of it is battery.
Yeah. Now, I did this to kind of placate and make fun of Wall Street.
Yeah.
But in reality, the better way of looking at it is to convert everything into energy, gigawatt hours.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
The other way around.
The other way around. Think of vehicles as batteries with wheels. Think of Megapacks as batteries without wheels. They are both energy storage devices. The vehicles allow us to use that energy to move things, people, stuff from place to place. The Megapacks allow us to use that energy and apply that to other things, whether it's factories, whether it's homes, powering, whatever, right? And eventually we'll have bots that will allow us to power labor. So at the end of the day, it's probably better to think of Tesla as an energy company, right? And these products are out there that allow us to use that energy to do different things. Transportation, power things, and labor eventually. So when we look at it this way, so the vehicles now are expressed in 75 kilowatt hour energy equivalents, right? Or I'm using that as my average. And so in that case, the cumulative amount of energy that Tesla has delivered into the world from its vehicle business is almost 600 gigawatt hours. Okay, pretty big number. And the cumulative energy deployments is about 78. Okay, about 78 gigawatt hours from the energy business. So the vehicle business has been in existence a lot longer. It's a bigger business. So it makes sense that 600 has come from the vehicles and only about 78, 80 from the energy side. Okay, but you can see the green bars there becoming a larger piece.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's also important to note here that on a daily basis, Tesla's energy business actually may be supplying more energy to the world than the vehicles. Even though the vehicles have a capacity of 600 gigawatt hours, we're not draining those batteries every day. The Megapacks, however, are being utilized more. And I had a comment on my post, and I use Grok to assist me. And under some scenarios, it's quite likely that Tesla's energy business is actually supplying more energy into the world than the vehicles are already.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's 80 versus 600 gigawatt hours in energy versus the vehicles. So the impact of the energy business actually is larger in terms of supplying energy for things, not for transportation, but for other stuff, powering data centers, backing up the grid, et cetera, versus the vehicles, because a lot of the vehicles are just sitting there, not actually using that energy source.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. The next page here, this one shows just over trailing 12-month periods. So the previous one was the cumulative. Over the last 12 months ending Q2, the vehicle business put out 126 gigawatt hours of energy. All the batteries in those vehicles, the cumulative value of that is 126 gigawatt hours, and the energy business is about 38. Which is amazing. Again, as we pointed out earlier, the energy business in the last 12 months has accounted for half of Tesla's total cumulative energy deployment.
Do you have this in revenue numbers too, or margins? Because if I look at it from base of energy equivalent, you can no longer call Tesla a car company. You've got to say that, look, this is for almost 40, this is 126, about 30%. You know, it's a lot, significant. It's no longer just under 10, under 5.
Yeah, no, the energy business, I think from a revenue standpoint is, if I recall, if you just look at energy versus auto, is about 20% of the total.
It's already 20%. And so at that point, right, if energy is already 20% of auto,
and I'm sorry, Herbert, that might be from a gross margin perspective. I forget whether that was revenue or gross margin, but either way, it's a significant percentage.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's the point stands, right? Which is like you can no longer call Tesla a car company only. Yeah.
That's right. And just like when we looked at the capacity of the energy, let's look at this now in the same way on the next page.
Mm-hmm.
So all those green and blue bars were the same as the previous one, but I've added the reddish pinkish ones on the right, one on the right.
Okay.
That shows
And I
capacity.
got it. Capacity.
Okay.
Capacity to create cars, but then put it to energy equivalent. Capacity to create energy and energy equivalents. Okay.
So here, instead of the 90 gigawatt hours of capacity I had on that previous chart, I used 100, being a bit more generous when I did this one. And then for the car business, Tesla says that they have current annual capacity of up to about 3 million vehicles. So that's about 225 gigawatt hours of capacity in the vehicle business on an annual basis. So again, you can see that the capacity, the combined capacity of the autos and the energy businesses is about double where Tesla is currently producing at.
And what we said earlier, this 90 and 100 is based on Shanghai. Well, if Shanghai is actually double, not just 40 gigawatt hours, and Tesla, the Texas one can be done by the end of this year, which is very likely because it's not that hard to create these megapack factories. By the end of next year, let's say double this from 100 to 200, you're already equivalent.
That's right.
Getting there.
Yeah, they're not standing still on either of these.
True.
The 3 million vehicle capacity will grow.
Right.
And then the megapack, as you just mentioned, is going to go up a lot. Yeah. So, you can fault Tesla for not growing quickly in the past, whatever. There's all kinds of issues and reasons why. But they have built capacity into their business. They intend to grow quite rapidly into this capacity over time. Yeah. And then eventually there'll be a third bar in here, which is the energy equivalence of the humanoid bots and how many gigawatt hours that will be. And that will also be a staggering number. Yeah. The next slide, I think, Herbert, was just the piece in the Outlook deck from Q1 where it says current expected maximum capacity of close to 3 million vehicles. So that's where I got that number from.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that include the Cybercab?
Well, I mean, this relates to says, plans for new vehicles, including more affordable models, remain on track for the start of production in the first half of 2025. These vehicles utilize the aspects of the next generation platform as well as aspects of our current platforms and will be produced on the same manufacturing lines as our current vehicle lineup. They're not specifically mentioning.
It's not the Cybercab. Yeah, it does not include Cybercab.
In the last paragraph there, they mention it. They say our purpose-built Robotaxi product Cybercab will continue to pursue a revolutionary unboxed manufacturing strategy and is scheduled for volume production starting in 2026. So it's not totally clear, but they're building capacity for 3 million, and then of course beyond. They're not going to stop there.
Yeah. Okay. So the thing is, Cern, I mean, it's great, right? You've just basically pointed out that if you look at everybody says the volume of car growth has plateaued, and you pointed out, well, actually, if you include the energy, it's risen, but it's like. You also just pointed out a month ago that it doesn't matter anymore because it doesn't matter as much. Like we're no longer here to tell the world that Tesla's selling cars at 50% growth each year. What matters now is how much capacity can they make of all these cars, including the Cybercabs, that will now become Robotaxis. And so if they don't sell the car, they're just going to make more Robotaxis. So it's not like the growth of 50% is no longer that important because it's not about whether or not consumers buy them. It's whether or not, how much can every car that Tesla makes is going to be making a lot of money, regardless if a consumer buys it or not.
Yeah. So a couple of things, Herbert. One is counting cars doesn't matter anymore because what we're doing now is talking about putting vehicles into a fleet. And the reason that matters is because the economics of that business is far superior than selling a car to somebody one time and collecting, let's say, $5,000. Yeah. Right? You get recurring revenue. So in that sense, selling cars doesn't matter. But the production of vehicles and the production of the energy capacity that you have to put vehicles into the world matters because that feeds the Robotaxi opportunity. So that matters in that sense. At the end of the day, what really matters is if GDP is labor times productivity, you can distill labor and actually productivity down to energy. the more energy you can produce, the more GDP you can produce. So if Tesla wants to drive a massive increase in GDP, they need to focus on being an energy company and putting out vehicle energy capacity, putting out megapack capacity, and then putting out humanoid robot capacity. So we can always look at Tesla as an energy company by looking at the battery content of each of these products. But always remember that even when we do this, that the business model is different for all of them. With the humanoid bot probably being the greatest opportunity on a profit per gigawatt hour, and then Robotaxi being second, and then Megapack perhaps being third. Yeah. And then the auto business a distant fourth. And of course, somewhere in all that is the semi and autonomous trucking. That's maybe more in the Robotaxi camp in terms of profitability, potential.
So yeah, the good news, right, is that Tesla is an energy company. Mm-hmm. And we just talked about they have a Lathrop factory. They got a Shanghai factory. They announced a Texas factory. They've got a brand new LFP battery factory that they just announced that is about to go online soon. They can create their own batteries. And so I think this year they've said that they're not battery constrained. So they're going to keep making these batteries, Megapacks and vehicle batteries. And then we have this brand new idea of solar mega factories. And so this is, Elon kind of hinted this, right? He said maybe there should be a solar gigafactory in America. And then this guy says, you should make it happen. Here's a play, right? You scale solar, you add these batteries, and you add the GPU clusters. Now you're going to have these fully integrated data centers. You have a data center that is a GPU cluster, right? But you need the batteries and you need solar. You need energy to power these AI data centers. Maybe X could offer a cloud platform using data center building IP from XAI and energy from Tesla. So this idea that you can have this data center and you can maybe have a platform, you could sell access to it. Elon did a little winky face.
And further to that equation, it's the batteries, the energy from Tesla, solar and batteries, right? It's the combination of both of those. It's the power generation they get from solar, storing that in the batteries. And by the way, the GPU clusters could be Dojo chips, Dojo systems. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So Tesla actually has a 3-part role to play here in all this. And so Dojo is not mentioned there, but it probably should be.
Interesting. Good point. I mean, right now, the assumption is the GPU clusters will come from XAI because they're the ones buying the NVIDIA ones.
Yeah.
Tesla's also, but solar batteries plus Dojo. A solar gigafactory in America, Cern, are you going to start modeling that out?
Well, we can, and I think it's kind of interesting. The challenge I have is the economics of solar. It's been hard for the U.S. to compete against China in solar. And so the question is, can Tesla come up with something that's cost competitive? Otherwise, you just continue to buy everything from China. It's like saying,
he has already.
It's like saying, maybe, right? It sounds like he may have. Yeah, and that'll be exciting if he has.
In America.
Yeah.
In America. Okay.
Yeah.
He doesn't make these statements like this. I find that he's not just maybe there should be. Let me think about it. Now I'll come back to you in like 2 years. No. I think when he says something like this, plans have been in place and they're on their way to announce again.
I hope that's true. Now, the one thing that sort of offsets all this is that China, for example, have been very strategic about this, and there's been a lot of state support for their companies in the solar industry for years, if not decades. Yeah. And we're seeing now that state support in the United States go the other way.
Yep.
So that part of it's disappointing. Can Tesla do this on their own without state support? Probably. Could they do it faster if the U.S. government was behind them? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll see how this plays out. In the end, I think we would all like to say, well, we don't really want state support. We don't want the government to be involved. Let's just do it ourselves. But the reality is we're up against the Chinese that have a state-supported solar industry, state-supported EV industry, state-supported everything that they've done. So we're not at all on a level playing field with the Chinese in this area. But there's no doubt from a strategic standpoint we need to be able to generate a lot of energy, and solar ideally would be the place to do it.
So, okay, just let's pause for a second. Just think about what we're talking about here, right? Tesla has to be an energy company first and foremost. It has to be the largest energy company. The energy in various form factors could feed electric vehicles that will become autonomous. It'll feed the robots, but it'll also feed the Megapacks, of course, as you outlined at the beginning of the show here. And then it's going to feed these AI data centers. Tesla's getting into the AI data center business. So yes, they're going to build a solar gigafactory, but the reason they're building a solar gigafactory is to be able to create solar plus batteries to power these AI data centers. So batteries is like the most important thing, and solar energy generation that can then feed all these things. That makes so much money.
And I think there's precedence with Tesla. They're very vertically integrated in their auto business. So why wouldn't you vertically integrate the energy business and have energy generation, energy storage, and then of course the end use itself, which is the AI data centers, which Tesla needs, which XAI needs, which SpaceX needs.
The world needs. Yeah, the world needs. Everybody will keep buying it. Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Cern, thank you very much for putting that together. Always love it when you update us with the charts, but just the way you think is so different. And you make us really understand the business, Tesla's business better. Energy equivalents, vehicle equivalents. Soon you'll have to do data center compute equivalents or something like that.
I think
you did.
We should ask Elon for a solar generation day and see what he comes up with.
What he comes up with. Yeah. That'll be good. Thank you, sir. Follow him. Check out his website at BrilliantAdvice.net. Follow him on his X account at Cern Basher. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Herbert.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.